I just feel like this team either is one of the best teams in the league or they look terrible. What's on, guys? J-Hoy back with you today. Welcome back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. We are back here on shipment and we drop 89 kills in what could be one of our best games of the year so far. But we are here, as it says in the title. The COD League posted this nice graphic and they were talking about the mid-season power rankings. Now, last year for the CDL, and I think even the year before that, I did power rankings after each major. Now, it was so tough because there were so many matches and a lot of teams were kind of equal, and it was kind of hard to put them in an order when, you know, stage to stage or group to group or qualifiers to qualifiers. A lot of the teams flipped so much, it was so hard to put them in order. Now, I know that's part of it, but it's still kind of hard to do. But this year so far, I would argue we have kind of like a very, very solid top 4. Then after that, we have a mid, you know, what could be 1, 2, 3, arguably 4, mid 4, I'll say even mid 3. And then there's like 4 or even 5 teams that need to figure it out, basically. So I want to start with the bottom team, and that's going to be the London Royal Ravens. So we're looking at the full season standings so far, and I believe this does include the first week of the Major 4, I think it is, qualifiers. So we have to keep that in mind. Or Major 3, whatever we're going into now. I think it's Major 4. But here we are. So we're mid-season. London Royal Ravens at the bottom. They're 5-15 overall. 25% series win rate, so that's obviously not good. A 30-52 map count, sitting at 50 points with a 37% map win percentage. Now, this team just picked up Yuli, who is a rookie, I should say. So there's not really been much time to kind of gauge how he will impact the team. I don't remember how many games they actually played, you know, in the first week of the qualifiers. But, you know, we can't really judge them too much this qualifiers. But over the course of the year, they've had multiple roster changes and just nothing is working for them. Our next team, the Florida Mutineers. Another team that has made a whole host of roster changes. And again, just none of them have worked. They've been one of the teams that kind of picked up, I don't want to say scraps of players, but you didn't really, I mean, like your strategy was very interesting. You wanted to pick up some challengers players that made somewhat of an impact last year, but it just didn't really work out. So with a team of Brack, Havoc, Capsule, and Fellow, you just, like, when you look at the top 4, even top 5 teams, you just don't have the talent to beat any of them. So they are 8-16 overall, a 33% series win count, a 38% map win count with 37-60, and they are at 70 CDL points. So once again, like, a team that needs to figure it out, has had a host of roster changes, and there's lots of talent. Don't get me wrong, there is lots of talent out there. And I don't know if they just want to try to keep with what they're doing or what, but whatever they're doing right now is just not working. Our next team in 10th place is going to be the LA Gorillas. The Gorillas with a roster of Arcides, Assault, Exceed, and Joe Deceives. Again, another team that has made a host of roster changes, all of which have not worked. They also sit with a similar record in series with Florida, with a series count of 8-15, a 35% series win rate, and a little bit better of a map win rate, 41-55, 43% map win rate, also at 70 CDL points. So, I mean, what do I even say about this? You have Arcides who they traded for or signed or like whatever you want to, you know, consider it. They basically traded Arcides for Slasher. And Arcides has always been a really solid player, but he has to have a decent team around him for him to look like the superstar he is. Now, when you give him, I don't want to say just randoms, but randoms, you're not going to succeed. And that's exactly why this team is almost in last place. Like plain and simple. That's why they are down there. You know, they also have an academy team that they just kind of like got rid of, I believe. I don't think they actually have them anymore. But you have everything you could need. Like, you made lots of roster changes. You could pretty much get anyone you wanted to. And then you kind of go to shit. And now you're in 10th place. So, again, I don't know what they do, but whatever they're doing right now is just not working. In 9th place, we're not just going by the standings here. We're going to put the Minnesota Rocker. Now, although they do sit in 8th place, right? We're not going right down the standings. But Minnesota Rocker. Now, they do sit, you know, higher than another team, like I said, in 8th place. But they are 12 and 14, 46% series count, 47 and 52 map win count, which is 47% as well. 130 CDL points. Now, here's the thing. They haven't looked good. They just made a roster change. They put Attach on the bench. They brought in Fame, who I don't really know too much about, but something over there is not working. Now, at the start of the year, Minnesota, I don't remember where we put them, but they looked like a very, very solid team. With Attach, with Cammy, with, who was there, Afro, and who's the other player that I'm missing? With Bance, right? Bance is there, I believe. A really solid team, but just something's not working. And I don't know why they decided to pick Attach. Maybe he's the one that, you know, they feel is, you know, not performing up to expectations. But, you know, for whatever reason, Minnesota decided to make that change. You know, we haven't really seen too much from them yet. You know, obviously with the change just happening. So, you know, they're kind of on the downward trend, if you will. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see how it turns out for them. In 8th place, I can't believe I'm putting them even this high, is the Vegas Legion. Now, the main reason I put them there is they actually look like a team that can win most matches. And you have Clayster leading the way. You got Temp, who's their superstar. You now have TJ Haley playing a little bit better. And now you add in Standy, who has been arguably one of the better players in the last like couple of years. You know, wasn't he like the rookie of the year too, or came close, or was top 3 or something? Like, he showed he could do really well. And then just this year, he just got dropped to the bench and then got released. And now he's on Vegas. And now Vegas actually has a decent team. So I think they could compete with arguably the bottom 8 teams. But once you get towards the top, with the top 4, once we get there, I just don't feel like, you know, they're that good. But I feel like they could upset, you know, some of these teams in the middle, some of those bubble teams. But they have the talent now. Now, can they prove on a consistent basis? Because for once, Vegas actually has a decent team. In 7th place, we have the Seattle Surge. Another team that has a lot of potential, a lot of potential, I guess is the right word, to be a good team with the likes of Pred, Sib, Mac, and Accuracy. You have everything you could need on this team, but just, again, something is not working. 13 and 14 series count, which is 48%, a 55 and 55, 50% map win rate, and at 140 CDL points. Now, if you were going to make a change to the Surge, there's going to be one of 2 players that is going to get dropped, no matter if they are the problem or not, and that's going to be Accuracy or Mac. And I hate to say it like that, but you're not going to drop Pred. Obviously, he's the franchise player. You're not going to drop Sib unless you get a boatload of money for either of those 2. Because most likely, I believe, Both their contracts are up this year, so they can walk into free agency and go to whatever team they want and make whatever team they want, pretty much. Like, that's the power they have going into this offseason. And unless they can somehow get more consistent, get a better team, upgrade, accuracy is definitely the scapegoat on that team just because of the names that are surrounding him. But if it's not accuracy, it's probably going to be Mac. And even if you replace Mac, I'm not sure who you replace him with. In 6th place is the Boston Breach. Now this team, we had Methods on at the start of the year. He retires, joins OpTic as a content creator. They bring in Beans to the lineup. Things going okay, not okay. They drop Vivid more recently. He moves to a substitute. And Kremp, who I'm, again, not very familiar with some of these Challengers players, he joins into the starting roster. I believe that just happened, like, yesterday, I think. So I don't think they played any matches with him yet. So we can't really determine, how well that team plays now. But, like I said, they dropped Vivid to the bench. That team definitely looked pretty good on paper. But, again, something wasn't working. They sit in the middle. Our first team to have a positive series count at 14 and 12, 54%. A positive map win record of 60 and 48 at 56% with 150 CDL points. One of those teams that we're midway through the year. They're kind of midway as well. Something needs to change. They want to try to bring in Kremp, see what he can do, provide a little spark, see if that can help them out the rest of the year. They probably will be okay going towards champs. They'll probably start in the winner's bracket if it is kind of the similar major setup as usual. But they needed a spark, and maybe Kremp will be it. Up in 5th place is our New York Subliners. Now, this team, again, I don't really know how this team is this high because I never really regarded them higher than, like, mid-card, like 6th to 8th. But they're kind of just holding on to, I guess, top 5, if you will. A 17-11 series count, 61 and 48, map count 56% at 165 CDL points. This team hasn't really done anything special recently. Ever since the Pro-Am at the start of the year, they somehow won that, which I still don't understand how. They haven't done anything, right? In Major 2, they get kind of like top 4 overall in records, but then finish 7th, 8th at the tournament. Then they get 6th, kind of like overall in the qualifiers, and then finish 9th through 12th. So, ever since that, like, I don't understand how you win the first tournament, probably because the format was terrible. You win the first tournament, and then completely 180, now you're awful. So, what do you get for points when you win a tournament? Is like 50 or 75 or something. So, they're winning a few matches here and there, kind of slowly gaining points, but they really haven't showed much since Major 1. Like I said, they finished 7th, 8th, and then 9th, 12th. So, they're not on the incline either here. They're definitely going downhill. But it's just a question of the 5th through 9th place teams. Again, we're going to have a 4-5 team bubble that they got to figure it out and then hope to get in at the last second because our final 4 teams are kind of solidified as our top 4 teams right now. Our 4th place team right now, in my opinion, is the LA Thieves. Now, another team that is our defending world champions from Vanguard. They have a series win count of 18 and 13, 58%, a 69 and 51 map winning record. That's 57% and 170 CDL points. Another team that has been looking pretty good most of the time, I should say, and definitely deserves our spot up here in the Final 4. You could almost move any of these 4 teams around and you could probably make a good argument for most of those situations. And in 3rd place, as much as I don't want to put them there, OpTic Texas. Now, a team that I feel like will grow up to the top 2 once they kind of get in their rhythm with Ghosty and kind of expand their map pool and, you know, consistently place how they should. But with an incredible losers bracket run in the last major, it definitely shows they can play in some tough moments. They can play against big name teams. You know, they could definitely take some of the teams the distance after beating FaZe, after, you know, coming close with Ultra. You know, once they find their gear, whatever gear they went to play for all through the elimination bracket, if they play like that the rest of the year, they're definitely going to look pretty good, right? So far in the qualifiers for this major, they absolutely smoked London, which is always great to see that it wasn't close at all. The 100-point clubbed him was like 6-1, 6-2, something like that in Search. I think it was like 3-0, 3-1 or something in Control. So they I think it was 3-0. They like handedly beat them. And now that's not really saying much given, you know, what we talked about with their struggles recently. But still, they looked really good in that series, but it does get harder from here. I believe they face off against, I think, Thieves or FaZe or something in this stage. And I think they play like another couple hard teams. So we'll see how they do. I definitely want to put them higher, but right now I want to be realistic because of the top two teams have been just a little bit more consistent. Our second place team who just won our last event, the Toronto Ultra, a team that's sitting at 19-10 series count. That's good enough for 66%. A map win record of 70-48 with a 59% map winning record with 215 CDL points. The Toronto Ultra have been looking good. They bring in a pair of rookies, well, one more recent than the other. They've been looking good, and you know, it doesn't look like they're stopping. They're playing all these top teams very tough. They're beating OpTic. They're beating FaZe. They're looking good. I mean, they definitely deserve to be in our top two. But there's one team that we always talk about is the #1 team in the game, regardless if they win a major or not, is Atlanta FaZe. And, you know, I hate to put them there every single time we make a power rankings or we make a predictions, but they're consistently good. Although I believe they did lose one of their matches this week versus... So far in Major 4 qualifiers, they win versus the Florida Mutineers, which, again, we talked about their struggles. 11th place right now. Doesn't really say much, but it was a game 5. So they did play them close, but still kind of questionable that 11th place is fighting that hard against our #1 ranked team right now. And then they lose in the game 5 versus the New York Subliners. So that's really interesting, right? 2 game 5s against 2 teams, one kind of in the middle of the pack, one all the way at the bottom. You know, who else do they play this year, this stage? So they play against the Minnesota Rocker, which, you know, we're still kind of seeing what they can do. They play against the Seattle Surge and the Toronto Ultra. Now, I'm not sure which order that's in, but still, that could be 3 kind of tough matchups for FaZe. Given that Seattle always has the potential to do that. Toronto obviously is up there as one of our top 2 teams. And then we have, what did I say, Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota, Seattle, and Toronto. So 3 teams that can make, you know, some pretty good series and definitely could create some upsets. They have a tough stage ahead of them. You know, they still are #1 team, 235 CDL points, 19-11 series count. That's good enough for 63%. A map winning record of 72-54. That's good enough for 57% for the map winning record. And like I said, 235 CDL points, ahead by 20 from Toronto. You know, it doesn't exactly go, you know, how the standings are. We did change 2 teams around because one team's kind of looking up, one team's kind of on the downward slope. And right now, I feel like FaZe, Ultra, OpTic, and Thieves are our top 4. Then you have like Subliners, Breach, Surge, Legion, and even Rocker I'd put in there as, what was that, 5 teams that definitely could, you know, all be in any of those positions, you know, kind of bump up and down. With the exception of the Legion, they only sit at 100 CDL points, but they have a good stage and they could be right in that mix, you know, going into stage 5. So can't count them out too yet. Some of these teams recently made roster changes, so we'll have to wait and see how those turn out. That's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below if you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure to subscribe, turn those post notifications on so you never miss an upload, and don't forget, you can always change your mind later. With all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.